I'm an old guy that just can't stay away from buying cars and trucks and crap. And I just recently picked up a 2001 Ford Ranger Edge 3.0 liter flex fuel. Nice looking truck. It was a Florida truck. I live in Illinois. Bought it cheap because there were some issues. And one of the issues was both of the cats were blocked and bad, so I had to have those replaced. We've replaced them, and I'm still having trouble with the idle on the truck. My mechanic called me this morning, and he said he thinks that the engine in the truck, the original flex fuel engine, has been swapped out for a non-flex fuel engine. And the previous owner, who was I don't know, he looked like a dummy, but anyway, he had done some things to the truck, such as he said he put new injectors in, which he did. My mechanic was concerned about the injectors being the wrong ones or cheap ones, and he checked them and said, no, they're the right ones. But they were the right ones for a flex fuel. And could that be causing the truck to run poorly and idle poorly?
Well, if that's the case, I've never come across it.
Okay, I did some other research online. Went into a chat from 2021, and the owner had expressed the same problem that I had, and he thought he had put the wrong injectors in. Well, they expanded and said that in 2001, Ford changed the and I'm not a mechanic, changed the style of injector to a 19-pound injector and tinkered with the software so that a fueling sensor was not needed. Now, my mechanic says there's no fuel sensor on this engine. So that may fall in line with what this guy was saying about a non-flex fuel engine.
Mm-hmm. Are there any codes in the computer?
I mean, well, that part I don't know because I haven't asked him and we haven't discussed it. I was only able on my own to confirm by the VIN number that it is definitely or was definitely a flex fuel.
Okay. Is the check engine light on?
Did I check into it?
No. Is the check engine light on?
Oh, no. That's one thing. The check engine light does not come on.
Okay. Do you know if anybody checked for vacuum leaks?
That I would, again, I'm sorry, but I got to presume that my mechanic he's fairly well versed in this stuff. He's got a place called Old School, so he's kind of old school, and I think that some of those basic things he could check for. Let me mention another issue that, in my opinion, might have something to do with all this. When I drove the truck, the gear selector, it's an automatic. The gear selector was very difficult to move from gear to gear. Now, the kid had also put a 3-inch lift on it. It's not a full-blown lift with the struts and all that. It's just I put them in before. They're just almost like wedges between your springs. And it's a 3-inch lift. Now, my mechanic said when he checked that condition out, where the gear selector was very difficult to move, that it looked like the gear cable running to, I guess it's called the, what do they call that device, kill device or something?
The inertia switch?
On the transmission.
Transmission range switch, neutral safety switch?
Safety switch, I think it is.
Okay.
And he says it looked like the cable running to that might be stretched over a component of the frame because of the 3-inch lift. Now, this is another issue that I thought might be easier to take care of. I haven't had anyone other than my mechanic check into it. He's done what he can because he's not a transmission person, but lubricated it and this and that and the other, and can't get it freed up. Now, what little I know, I thought a lot of times the transmission, catalytic converters, engine's not running well, that there was kind of a connection between all that. That's why I mentioned it to you.
I gotcha. Thanks for that information. I appreciate it. So what needs to be done is somebody needs to get in there and at the bare minimum, check for vacuum leaks and check for diagnostic trouble codes. Now, the things that you mentioned, they certainly are worth looking into, and I certainly wouldn't discredit anything at this time. Everything is needs to be looked at and ruled out one by one. So what I would recommend is that someone plug into the computer, check for codes in the computer, and then somebody can actually, do a smoke test on the intake system. And we use a smoke machine at the shop that just hooks up to the intake manifold with the engine turned off. You just pump the intake full of smoke, and it makes it super easy to find a leak. And if there are no vacuum leaks and we still have an idle issue, then usually it's going to be related to the idle air control valve or motor on the throttle body, maybe a bad or a dirty throttle body, or maybe an issue with the throttle position sensor. Now, that's the most common causes right there. Now, could this be something related to this flex fuel issue that you were talking about? Maybe they put a different engine in there, different injectors. Absolutely. If they put different injectors in there, it's causing it to run rough. I would think it would cause misfire codes, which leads us down the path for checking for codes in the computer. Now, I did pull up the fuel injector part number, and I'm going to give you this part number. So I want you to do me a favor and write this down. This is the fuel injector part number that I have for the flex fuel vehicle. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, now you say this is for the flex fuel?
That's what it says, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
4 Larry, 5 Zebra, 9 F as in Frank, 5 9 3 Apple.
Okay, now what is this again?
This is the fuel injector. So what you could do is you could find out what part number fuel injectors they put in the vehicle and see if it matches this part number, or if if you call the Ford dealership and say, hey, these are the part numbers that were put in, are these acceptable? And they'll be able to tell you.
Now you're saying that this is the fuel injector for the flex fuel.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, so if the swapping of the engine scenario is accurate, then the codes would not be this code if they put the right injectors in. If the codes match what you told me and it is a non-flex fuel engine, then that could be a problem or the problem.
Well, and I apologize. Maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but I just gave you the part number. That's not the codes.
Well, no, I understand.
Okay.
It's the part number for the fuel injector device.
So regardless if they swap the engine or not, it's still going to flag computer OBD2 diagnostic federal codes. They're all standard, whether it's a Porsche, Ford, GM, or Chrysler. It doesn't matter. It's still going to flag misfire codes. That's mandated by the federal government.
Right. I bought you see them on Facebook, a little device called a Fixed.
Yep.
XD.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar.
And it's not a bad device. I bought a 14 Yukon and put it in there, and I mean it green lighted everything. Now I put it into the Ranger, and I've keyed in the information, the VIN and all that. It will not give me a reading.
What do you mean it won't give you a reading?
I haven't had an opportunity to call the Fixed people. It won't show me any codes at all. It just says can't connect.
There we go. Okay, hang on, time out. So that's the problem right there. That's a major problem. The problem isn't your scan tool, isn't fixed. It's the communication problem on your Ford Ranger.
And that could be because of the swapped engine.
Well, generally speaking, no, it's not. Now, maybe there's a wiring issue that happened when they swapped the engine, but the engine itself shouldn't prevent the communication problem on the vehicle. So yeah, that's a huge problem.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that needs to be diagnosed and fixed, regardless of anything moving forward. That's probably why it probably explains why everybody's having a hard time diagnosing it, because they can't check for codes because there's a communication problem.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because from what little I know, when I did it on the Yukon, it worked great.
Right.
And when I did it on the Ford, it came back and said it can't read it.
That's
and I'm thinking, what the heck?
Right. That's exactly it. Because the scanner works just fine. You plug it on any other vehicle that's communicating, it'll work just fine. Now, in some cases, what happens is the vehicle, it won't start because of a no communication issue. But in other cases, even more difficult scenarios like this one, it will start and run, but there will be no communication. So that makes it very difficult. But a good technician should be able to pinpoint this.
Gotcha. Okay. One last thing, this gear shift thing. I mean, do you have any kind of thought on that? Is it possible to stretch a gear shift selector cable to such an extent that the shift column itself is very difficult to move?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't install lift kits, and I've actually never installed one, but I've been factory trained, and this means that anything aftermarket that's installed on the vehicle shouldn't be there. And as soon as you install anything aftermarket, all bets are off the table and anything is possible. So is it possible that it can stretch? Absolutely. The cable, the factory cable isn't designed to go with this, add these aftermarket, this lift kit parts, to extend everything, to make it look cool or to make it jacked up. So yeah, I don't see why not. I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't see how that itself would cause a communication issue or a rough running. But
then I was going to take it over to another guy who's a transmission specialist. I talked to them about it, and they mentioned a couple of little deals.
Right.
And if worse comes to worse, then I'm going to just have somebody take that lift kit off.
Yeah.
And try to get it back to where it came from. So, all right. Well, I'm impressed. I guess if the suggestions work out.
Yeah.
But let me get to my mechanic before my 79-year-old brain forgets everything you told me.
You bet. You're welcome, my friend. Good luck, and let us know if anything comes up. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.